Hi, my name is Colin, and I'm going to give a little talk. First off, I want to start off by saying I'm going to talk about faith and religion and spirituality. And also, probably I'll be talking about my own life. And I wanted just to put together a little talk. This will be the first one. And I've done some writing, but I think that I want to put it down in this form because I've already done a lot of writing, and now's the time to speak. I don't know if anybody's going to listen to this or see it or give it any attention, but for me it's important to at least put down into words what I believe and the teaching that has helped me to live and to find happiness in life and a meaningful life and love. And that's what I'm going to speak about. So first I'll just start off by saying I am a person of faith, a believer in God, and it started off when I was very young, when I was a boy. Going back to when I was in the church, Catholic Church. I was brought up by my parents in the Catholic Church, and I remember praying the rosary around age of 7, maybe even before then, but I remember especially at the age of 7. And going on to my teenage years, I continued to have faith up until around the age of 15, and then I decided that I didn't need to pray or trust in God anymore because I thought I could do it all on my own and use my own intelligence and my own work ethic to achieve something in life, be successful. But I ended up being very empty, having no feelings, being extremely lonely, and leading a life that was devoid of love and joy. And that's what happens to everyone who rejects God. A friend of mine asked me when I was 17 if I believed in God, and I said no. It didn't seem like I needed it anymore. And I wasn't even paying attention to it anymore. It wasn't as though I was hostile to religion or faith or God. It's just I became indifferent, or I thought that I didn't need it. And so I essentially was an unbeliever or an atheist at that age. And then the next year, when I was 18, I know this is a lot of personal information. I will get into the other, what else I'm going to talk about, but first I'm just going through my little biography here, my spiritual awakening, we'll call it, or conversion. So I had lost faith when I was a teenager for a few years, and then when I was 18, I started to pray again. And the reason I started to pray again was I was having feelings for a girl, feelings of love, and I wanted to talk to her. She was a girl my age in high school, wanted to maybe go out with her, talk with her. So I started to pray about that, and I started to have more feelings, these feelings that started to awaken, and I started to feel like a human being again, with real feelings and feeling alive, essentially. So I was praying about her It didn't work out between us, but that's okay. Wasn't meant to be. But it did awaken my spiritual life. And the next year when I went to college, I started reading spiritual writers, especially Leo Tolstoy. And this awakened my understanding that people of faith are not lacking in critical thinking or intelligence. Some of them have been great writers and geniuses, like Tolstoy. And one story he wrote called God Sees the Truth But Waits was a short story. I hadn't cried in a long time. I wasn't able to cry when I lost faith. My tears had dried up. But when I read this story and I started to seek spiritual understanding to life, when I was in college, I was 19 years old. I was still searching. I was still kind of lost, confused, not knowing what to think or believe about God or about the meaning of life. But when I read this story, it brought a tear to my eye, which is something that hadn't happened in a long time. And it was the Christian feeling of forgiveness and love for one's neighbor or even one's enemy that awakened the spiritual feeling within me, a feeling of love that allowed me to cry and feel something, whereas before I felt nothing. I was numb, I was empty, and most of all, I was unhappy and alone, depressed. And again, this is what happens to everyone who goes astray from the Lord. So, reading that story by Tolstoy, I realized the Christian teaching had a lot of truth to it, and I started reading some other Christian writers who again awakened my feelings. Harriet Beecher Stowe, especially her novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, again made me cry. Feelings of love, Christian love. And I read the Gospels, studied the Gospels. And again, in Tolstoy's translation of the Gospels, I studied. And I understood that, there's more to life than what other people think there is about, making money or finding a girlfriend or being successful in the world. What's really important in life, I understood, is love. And I found that through my reading and through my prayer life, which I continued to pray and start to pray again. I started to feel better. That was amazing to me. I started to feel the depression, misery, unhappiness, loneliness started to lift. And I remember walking in the woods. I used to go on walks by myself in the woods, solitary walks after I read. And one time I was feeling kind of desperate. Almost, this was when I was 20. I was suffering from loneliness. But I called out to God in the forest. I said, Lord, please help me not to be lonely, because I was very lonely. And then I realized that God could be my friend. And I could pray and talk to God like a friend. And that God would answer me and give me love. Not in the same way as a human being would, as a human friend or girlfriend, but as a perfect friend, a perfect love that was existing within me. And that's another thing that allowed me to understand religion or faith, is that it happens because we're able to connect with God and have a spiritual life, because within us we have a soul and God is within our soul. And this was a revelation to me that the kingdom of God is within you, as it's written in Luke 17:21. The kingdom of God is within us, and we can experience the love of God through our prayers. And that's the spiritual life that opened up to me, and it was beautiful, and I never have looked back. I found happiness. true happiness, not the happiness that the world offers, but the happiness that exists eternally within us, and the happiness that comes from the love of God, and also the love that you can share with others, other people, or even animals, but mostly people. But um, but the love you can share with others comes about through the love of God. But it starts with the love of God. If you don't have God's love within you, the love that you give to others is either not going to be there at all, or is going to be extremely flawed or sick. Because we do need help, and I needed help. Everybody needs help. Everybody has problems. Everybody has troubles. Some people's troubles are worse than others, but everybody has something they're suffering from. Whether it's like me, it was loneliness. That was my main problem. Feeling lonely, not having friends, and not being able to relate to or connect to people, and being angry at people, and being angry at my own family and the world. But then all that going away because God's love saved me and turned me into a person who loved other people instead of hated or was angry and wanted to love. And I gained the true friendship that I needed, which is the love of God existing between God and my soul. And you can share that love with other souls. And it's really started just with a simple prayer, just like I used to pray when I was a boy, when I was 7 years old, praying the rosary, asking for help when I was in trouble or when I was afraid. And God always came to my rescue. And God came to my rescue when I was a young man, 20 years old, at times feeling almost so lonely that I wanted to die. But God was there and heard my prayers, answered my prayers. And here I am today. I'm still living, and I'm living with joy, and I'm living with happiness. I'm living with peace in my soul. I'm living with love. And it's all because God answered me. God answered my prayers, heard my prayers, and I've continued to pray. Some people might ask what religion I am or ended up in, but I wouldn't say that I picked a particular religion, even though I've alluded to Christianity. There are aspects of the Christian religion and dogmas and doctrines that I don't accept. So I wouldn't say that I picked the Christian religion or that I stayed with Catholic teachings, even though I do relate to Christianity and Catholicism in many ways. But this is getting beside the point. The point is that I have faith and that I have a relationship with God. No matter what religion you are, you can always have a relationship with God when you pray. And everybody knows how to pray. Everybody, even children. It's very simple. And I call it the simple teaching that pray to God, and that's how you live, and that's how you find happiness, that you pray to God. And everyone can do it, and everyone has to do it if they want to be happy, and if they want to feel love, and if they want to lead a meaningful life, and if they want to live in this present life and in the world to come with joy and peace and love and with God and with one another. So that's my message, and that's my life, summation of my conversion and my teaching. And I will I am going to write some more. I'm trying to work on a new book, but really this is my message right now, and I thank you for listening. I will have more to say in the coming days. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.